Have you ever felt like she barely notices you? Like the interest from that girl you've been into just vanished to thin air? Me too. Well, buckle up guys, because in this video we're breaking down tier list style, the fastest, almost instant ways to spark her curiosity and desire for you. And no, these aren't cheap tricks. They're real, actionable moves that, when done right, can completely change how she sees you. Let's kick things off with playfully teasing her. I'm going to be throwing this one in B tier because it creates a fun and lighthearted atmosphere that can build a strong connection. However, it's not quite at the top because there's a fine line. You can easily cross it and turn teasing into something that feels more like mocking, which can backfire, guys. So here's an example of bringing it to life. Imagine you guys are at a coffee shop together, and she makes a playful comment about your outfit. Instead of staying silent or apologizing, you come back with something like, "Oh no, next thing you'll be picking out my hairstyle, huh?" with like a cheeky grin. That little spark of humor adds excitement to the conversation, and it makes her feel comfortable without coming across as like too serious or too self-conscious. This approach works because it subtly shows her that you're confident enough to handle light banter without losing her cool. In her mind, she's going to interpret your playful response as proof that you're secure and not easily rattled. Plus, she'll see that you're someone who enjoys the moment and knows how to keep things interesting. A quality that naturally boosts attraction. Next up, compliment overload, which I'm going to be placing in the empty gesture tier, E. Why? Because bombarding her with compliments every second does not increase your appeal. It can actually make you seem pretty desperate. When the attention becomes too excessive, she feels like you're not genuinely seeing her, but just idolizing her without limits. Picture this, you're at a cafe, and within 10 minutes you've complimented her hairstyle, her smile, called her the most amazing woman in the universe. At first, she might enjoy it, but soon your insistence makes her question whether you actually know her or you're just fishing for approval. The key is to offer compliments that are genuine and specific. This way, she'll feel truly seen and valued, not like you're parroting empty praise. Remember, less is more when it comes to nurturing authentic interest. Next, we have a high-value social circle, which I'm going to be ranking in the alpha edge tier. Why so high? Having a quality social circle, friends who support you and your aspirations of their own, says a lot about who you are, your leadership, your ability to connect with interesting people, and your capacity to thrive in valuable environments. Imagine, you're invited to a party, and you arrive with a couple of confident, successful friends. While you mingle, she notices how everyone feels at ease around you. That sends a clear message that there's something special about you that just draws people in. When she sees you surrounded by people who admire and respect you, it amplifies your appeal for her. And for her, it's not just about having friends, it's about those friends that reflect your character and energy. That social magnetism significantly raises her interest level. Next is silent confidence, which I'm going to be placing in the casual vibe tier. Sounds good, but why isn't it ranked any higher? While silent confidence is indeed attractive, because it does show calmness, it doesn't push you to the top unless you pair it with meaningful interaction. Think of it like this. You're in a group, staying quiet, but maintained and relaxed. You have very strong body language. She might feel some curiosity, but if you don't contribute anything to the conversation, you risk fading into the background. It's a double-edged sword. The trick is to balance the calm demeanor and the ability to jump the conversation at the right moment by blending composure with timely input. You create a steady, genuine interest that really is going to resonate with her, guys. Next up, let's talk about demonstrating competence, which lands in the bold contender tier. Showing you know how to handle things naturally raises your appeal, but it's not a game changer on its own unless it's paired with other qualities. Alright, picture this. You're at a gathering with friends and you quickly solve an issue with the TV or you handle the grill like a pro. She sees you handling these things effortlessly. That adds a point to your reliability and capability score. The key here is not to brag or make a show of what you can do. Just do it naturally and let her notice on her own. The quiet demonstration of being ready for anything creates a subtle but impactful impression. Next, we've got shared languages. Not jokes, which I'm putting in the casual vibe tier. Why? Laughing together is powerful. But if your only move is forced jokes, it's not going to go very far. Now, imagine you're at a bar. Instead of telling a stand-up routine, you find humor in the moment. Something clever about what's happening around you. That shared humor makes her feel the chemistry is real. For her, it's not about you being a professional comedian. It's about both of you enjoying those little sparks and shared laughter. Don't turn into a one-man show, or she might think that you're trying way too hard. Now, let's talk about the unshakable eye contact, which belongs in the alpha edge tier. Steady eye contact without being overbearing. It creates an intense connection. It's not quite supreme magnet, but it is a strong way to elevate her attraction. Okay, picture this. During a conversation, you maintain eye contact while explaining something that's really important to her. You're not checking your phone or looking away. That tells her loud and clear, I'm here with you, and I genuinely care what's happening right now. It's a direct hit to her subconscious. Women perceive steady eye contact as confidence. Just don't overdo it. Staring without blinking comes across as kind of creepy. A natural, unshaken glaze exudes stability and comfort. Next is turning down easy validation, which I've placed in the bold contender tier. Rejecting flattery or compliments that come too easily shows that you're not starving for ego strokes. For example, if she praises you too early, instead of puffing out your chest like a rock star, you respond with something like this. Wow, you're putting me on a pedestal already? Said with a relaxed smile. You're showing her you're not desperate for approval. When she realizes that you're not caught up in easy praises, she sees someone who doesn't rely on external validation. And that lack of neediness, paradoxically, becomes one of the most magnetic traits that you can have, my guys. Next, we have respecting her space, which I'm going to place in C tier. It is a solid approach to avoid overwhelming her or to seem desperate. But it doesn't reach the higher levels unless you pair it with personal initiative. For instance, imagine she tells you she'd rather spend Saturday with her friends and she doesn't include you on the plan. Instead of demanding like an explanation, you can simply respond, great, I hope you have a good time. Carry on with your day. Calm, no pressure, guys. From her perspective, not feeling pressured or controlled shows you respect her. However, remember, respecting her space doesn't mean showing zero interest. A subtle touch of initiative, it just really demonstrates that you can lead, not just wait, you know? Oh, here we have physical light escalation, which I'm placing it in the bold contender tier. Subtle physical contact, like a light touch on her arm or back while walking, it can spark attraction, provided it's respectful and well-timed. It's not the ultimate move, but it definitely boosts your points. Picture this. You're leaving a crowded place and you lightly guide her with your hand on the upper part of her back. Nothing exaggerated. But this moment creates a pleasant micro-tension where she feels your closeness without feeling uncomfortable. Now, for many women, well-measured physical touch reveals confidence and security. It makes her wonder, does he know what he's doing? If you show that you can give these small gestures without hesitation, her interest naturally increases. Ooh. Next is sharing personal passion, which I'm going to be placing in C tier. Introducing her to something you genuinely love or showing her your enthusiasm can spark curiosity, but it will not ignite major attraction if it becomes a one-sided conversation. For example, let's just say you're passionate about jazz and you invite her to an outdoor jam session, and she notices how you enjoy every melody, and hears you passionately talk about your favorite saxophonist. Your energy is going to intrigue her. The key is to make her feel a part of your world. If you talk endlessly about your favorite music without paying attention to her reactions or thoughts, she's going to lose interest. Engage her by asking questions, valuing her input, making her feel involved. Now we're going to move on to tactical withdrawing, which earns a spot at A tier. Unlike simply ignoring her, this involves a calculated retreat. Giving her space intentionally, so she fills your absence. Done with class, it's smart timing, not manipulation. Imagine that you've been chatting frequently, and suddenly she slows down her replies. Instead of flooding her with more message, you just adjust your rhythm. Wait a couple days before reaching out. When you do, share something interesting about your week. Her attention often resurfaces. She realizes that you're not the clingy kind and don't need constant validation. Seeing your confidence and focus on other areas of life make her think, why isn't he messaging me as much as before? That curiosity elevates your appeal. Now we have mirroring her pace, which I'm going to be placing in the adult effort tier. What's the deal? You follow her lead in everything, matching her rhythm exactly. While it may seem polite, it falls flat when trying to spark interest. You're playing along instead of standing out. For example, if she takes 12 hours to reply and you do the same, no one adds excitement or breaks the pattern. It's like a mirror reflecting back with the same energy and no real sparks. You should not overwhelm her. Simply mimicking her pace won't make you stand out. Women often appreciate the touch of spontaneity, something unexpected to shake up the dynamic and make her take notice, you know? Next up is selective vulnerability, which I'm going to place in bold contender tier. Sharing a glimpse of your personal emotion or challenges in a measured way can create a very strong connection. But be careful. Oversharing too much or too soon can overwhelm her. A quick example. During a conversation, you mentioned how as a kid you struggled with public speaking and you overcame it with small goals. She sees a very relatable human side for you. However, you keep it brief and avoid a 20-minute long monologue. For most women, moderate vulnerability signals internal confidence. It shows you're not afraid to reveal a softer side, but you also don't depend on her validation or her sympathy to feel any type of way about yourself. Next is physical activity invite, which I'm going to be placing in C tier. Inviting her to something active like hiking or skating or bowling, it adds a refreshing twist to the usual dinner date. But it doesn't always elevate interest if she's not into physical activities. So, for instance, you invite her on a light walk through a scenic park. While you chat, the activity itself keeps things relaxed. She enjoys that change of pace. But if the conversation doesn't flow or she dislikes walking, it might fall flat. The upside? Movement reduces the pressure of constant eye contact, which can help the conversation flow. Just ensure the activity is easily accessible for her. Not an Iron Man challenge if you're just getting to know each other, you know? Oh, lastly in this batch, mini adventure dates, which I'm going to be placing in the bold contender tier. Taking her on to spontaneous outings like a street market or karaoke injects some adrenaline, though it won't make her swoon if there's no underlying chemistry. Imagine discovering a small shop selling exotic ice cream flavors and taking her there on a whim, followed by a walk through a Quincy artisan fair. The spontaneity makes the date lively and it breaks the routine. For her, novelty sparks excitement. The surprise factor shows that your life isn't a repetitive loop. You're open to unique experiences, but if the connection feels forced or your plan lacks charm, the adventure might not leave the impression you're hoping for. Let's move on to excessive overthinking, which I myself struggle with way too much. But I'm going to place this in E tier. Why? Because analyzing everything she says or does 100 times over, it doesn't raise her interest. It only makes you seem overcalculated and drains your emotional energy. For instance, she sends you a text, and instead of replying naturally, you dissect every single word for those hidden signals. All that over-analysis kills the spontaneity of the interaction. Rather than just enjoying the moment, you're stuck in a spiderweb of assumptions. Here's the thing. Women can sense when you're overly focused on the tiniest of details, and it comes across as insecure. A touch of lightness, without being completely oblivious, is far more attractive than being like a detective with every single move that she makes. Ooh. Next is subtle eye contact mastery, which I'm going to place this one in A tier. Calm confidence eye contact sends a powerful message. You're neither submissive nor overbearing, just steady and self-assured. Okay, picture this. Boom, you're chatting in a lively bar. And instead of darting your eyes away every few seconds, you hold her gaze for a moment longer. and with a slight smile. Guys, that silent confidence speaks volumes. Most women respond incredibly well to steady eye contact because it shows you're open to a real connection without being overbearing. Just don't confuse it with staring unblinkably. That's a fast track to discomfort. Now, let's talk about laughing at everything she says, which that'll sit in D tier. Laughing excessively at everything she says doesn't really flatter her. It makes you seem overly eager to please her. Instead of boosting her confidence, it often creates awkwardness. Imagine she casually says, "It's cloudy today." Can you respond with, "Ha ha 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 ha"? You're obviously trying too hard. Okay, you wouldn't go that extreme, but it comes across as you're trying way too hard. And it can be off-putting, guys. Sure, humor is essential, but it needs to be authentic. If she sees you laughing at every single dull remark, her emotional radar will disengage. A genuine laugh goes way further than a rehearsed chuckle. Ooh, next up, the unpredictable compliment, which I'm going to be placing in the bold contender tier. This is all about stepping away from the typical compliments like "you're beautiful" and surprising her with something unique. For example, okay, so if she suggests something fun and like a spontaneous idea, you might say, "God, I love how your mind never stops creating." See, this highlights her creativity rather than just focusing on her looks. The key here is differentiation. It makes her feel genuinely appreciated on a deeper level. But don't overdo it. One meaningful compliment when she least expects it is far more impactful than constant flattery. Ooh, let's bring in a top contender. Dominant but respectful body language. This is going to earn a spot in Supreme Magnet tier. Mastering the balance between confidence and consideration is the ultimate formula for attraction. Okay, so picture this. You're at a social gathering, and you stand up in a spot where you're easily seen and you move with purpose. You keep your posture upright but relaxed. She notices your presence without you needing to shout for attention. For most women, body language that projects internal control without overshadowing others is the pinnacle of appeal. If you're at ease with yourself, by extension, you're at ease with her. Next is setting your boundaries early, which I've placed in C tier. Saying no to certain things in an early interaction can be helpful, but it's not the biggest game changer. Unless it's handled with the right tone. Okay, so imagine she asks you to meet last minute on a Saturday, making you feel like an afterthought. Instead of immediately saying yes, you politely respond that you already have plans. She will realize that you're not always available at her convenience. The way you set your boundaries are crucial, guys. Sounding bitter or aggressive will ruin your charm, but managing it very calmly shows her you have a fulfilling life beyond her. That earns respect points, guys. Ooh, the next one is time constraint tactic. And it comfortably lands in the alpha edge tier, demonstrating that your time is valuable. For example, mentioning you're only free for an hour or two. It adds a layer of intrigue and exclusivity to your presence. Okay, so picture this. You meet for coffee and casually say, "I've got about 45 minutes before I have to head out." This signals that your life doesn't revolve around the date, which increases her curiosity about what you're up to. Just make sure it's authentic, not a gimmick. Scarcity enhances value in her mind. She'll wonder, "Oh, what's keeping him so busy?" Guys, just remember, make the time you do spend together, make it mean something. Make it worthwhile. Ooh, finally in this block, we have mystery-filled invitations, which I'm going to place in the bold contender tier. Telling her, "I've got a plan that you're going to love, but you'll find out when we get there." It creates just this amazing sense of intrigue and curiosity that's naturally just going to boost her interest. I use this so many times, and it always gets a very good reaction. Okay, so imagine inviting her out on a Friday and giving her vague hints like, "Wear comfy shoes and keep an open mind." She spends the day wondering what you have planned, and which builds anticipation. Women are drawn to novelty and suspense. And this approach works her imagination in your favor. Just make sure that the actual plan lives up to the build-up, or the mystery bubble might burst whenever it matters most. Alright, let's kick off the final stretch with authentic vulnerability, which I'm placing in the supreme magnet tier. Showing a glimpse of your real emotions without playing the victim can create a deep emotional bond. It's not about overshadowing or oversharing your life story, but it's about letting her see that you have more layers than just a bravado. Picture this. You're talking about a tough lesson you learned last year. You don't name it as, my deepest problem, but rather you highlight it and highlight how it shaped you into a stronger person. She feels that sincerity, it's just going to draw her closer, like flipping a switch in her mind that says he's real and that's magnetic. Women often respond strongly to a mix of confidence, plus that small window into who you are underneath. The key is to not drown her in your personal drama, but to share enough so she genuinely sees a human being. Next up, endless texting. Parked in the empty gesture. Bombarding her phone with a million messages or expecting her to keep up with the text marathon going. It might seem like you're showing interest, but it quickly turns into background noise. Alright, so imagine that she's busy at work, and every time she checks her phone, there are 5 more texts saying, "You there? Miss me yet?" That kind of constant pinging rarely fosters real connection. Instead, it waters down your presence. That was something that, me personally, I struggled a lot with in high school. I learned really quickly as I grew older. That's horrible. Less is more, guys. Send texts that have substance or personality. Whenever you flutter with notifications, she subconsciously devalues each message. It's like hearing the same note 100 times in a row. It loses all of its impact. Moving on, light-hearted competition lands in casual vibe. A playful battle, like playing her at pool, trivia, or a quick, silly little bet. It adds spark, but it doesn't drastically ramp up her interest unless balanced well with the rest of your approach. Okay, picture this. You both are at a friend's gathering, and she claims that she's unbeatable at darts. You humorously raise an eyebrow, saying, "Alright, I bet you can't beat me." Loser buys the next round. See, guys, that sets a fun, laid-back tone without overshadowing the bigger emotional picture. A dash of competition shows you're not the type to just nod along. You like to keep things dynamic. Yet, don't morph into a hyper-competitive jerk. Nobody likes a sore winner or a sore loser. Strike that sweet spot. Or a friendly rivalry, Ooh. This one's interesting. Let's talk about textual cliffhangers. I'm gonna slot this in B tier. Dropping a hint of something intriguing, then holding back details. It's gonna spike her curiosity. This can noticeably boost her interest, but you need to execute it smoothly. For instance, you go to text her. "You won't believe what just happened. Remind me to tell you later." Then you go on about your day. She's left wondering, what on earth happened? This invites her to engage you without chasing her. Women's minds fill in the blanks. That mini dose of suspense can make them lean forward, figuratively. Just ensure you follow up the real story. It'll feel like an empty teaser. Next is visual surprise elements, occupying the D tier. This means randomly showing up in outlandish outfits or spamming her with weird selfies. While it might get a laugh, it doesn't substantially raise the attraction. It often lands as like you're a tryhard. Say you show up at her workplace in a flashy costume just because you think it's a grand romantic flair. But she's more likely to cringe, honestly, guys. Feeling secondhand embarrassment. Originality is good, but not at the expense of authenticity. If your big surprise feels forced, it's going to diminish your value. Women prefer a very subtle, spontaneous twist over an artificial praise. Finally, let's end on a high note. Mastering non-reactivity. That's going to sit firmly in the supreme magnet tier. When she tries to spark drama or test your emotions, you reclaim a calm and self-possessed. You project unwavering confidence, the holy grail of attraction. For instance, she playfully jabs you, saying, "You always forget everything, don't you?" Instead of getting defensive, you commonly reply, "Huh, only the unimportant details," with a light shrug. See, it's a very small demonstration that you're not easily rattled. Non-reactivity signals emotional leadership. She senses a man who can handle bumps in the road without falling apart. And that's a magnet for deeper connection, guys. When life tosses a curveball, you remain steady, and she'll want to stay in your orbit. Alright guys, that's a wrap up on this tier list. Now you know what's a total game changer, what's better left in the dust. Remember guys, it's not about learning gimmicks or playing games. It's about creating your magnetic identity. That version of yourself pulls people in naturally. Next up, we've got two absolute bangers. How to pass your shit tests like a pro, where we're going to be deep diving into handling those sneaky little challenges like a master. And then, the alpha versus beta debate. Head-to-head clash of the ideas that you'll be rethinking everything that you know. But my good friends, I'll catch you in the next one. I really hope I helped. Never forget, your most powerful move is staying true to who you are. I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.